The Real Canadian Superstore is a sprawling store that sells groceries, cleaning supplies, clothing, stationery, books, some furniture, and more. I decided to choose this site for some discourse analysis because it's a space that is fraught with advertising, where goods are strategically marketed towards particular demographics like men and women. Packages are everyday objects that greet consumers on the shelves of stores, which are themselves sites of cultural production and social interaction and can be read as cultural texts. According to Stuart Hall's representation theory, people make meaning out of what they see, and what they see is dependent on how these things are represented. In this video, I will treat Superstore like a cultural text and do some discourse analysis as described in Queer, A Graphic History by Meg John Barker and Jules Scheele. The purpose of this documentary is to examine what going to a grocery store might tell us about norms and expectations in relation to gender and more. We can find out by analyzing package design. Packages are designed to communicate which particular gender the products are intended for by deploying established conventions for form, shape, colors, words, font, texture, decor, symbolism, signs, size, and layout. Take this toilet paper. Charmin Strong is marketed using a boy bear and Charmin Soft with the girl bear, signaled by her bow and eyelashes. Already, this package sends the message that masculinity is tied to strength or power, and femininity is tied to softness and gentleness. Here's another example. Alphagetti, marketed for boys, features a superhero representing strength or heroism, and Alphagetti for girls features a pink background and princesses in dresses. McIntyre 2019 states that design that is clearly marketed to boys or girls, men or women, not only enacts gender difference, it also reinforces gender as binary. The gender binary is also reinforced with marketing that relies on blue versus pink. Packaging targeted at women is not pink because women by nature like pink, but because the color pink creates an effect that links pink with femininity. Stuart Hall discusses how we construct meaning from what we see in tandem with what is being represented to us. Culture has taught us to link pink with femininity, and so when we see pink products, we know they are intended for girls and women. Here's the card section. We see the blue section is cards for grandfathers, dads, sons, nephews, while pink is for moms, grandmothers, daughters, and nieces. Along similar lines, the pink sensitive gloves, like the soft Charmin toilet paper, positions women as soft, gentle, feeling, and sensitive. But when a product is intended for men, like these not pink razors on the left, despite being designed for sensitive skin, the marketing aims to offset the culturally understood femininity of the word sensitive by putting extreme in front of it, which doesn't make any sense, but it does make it seem more intense and less soft and gentle. Hall discusses how language externalizes meaning that we make of the world. So here, we are seeing extreme being used to construct a version of sensitivity that is supposedly acceptable for a male market. Next, these for her and for him gift cards are almost exactly the same, but the marketing of these products is constructing two different consumer groups, women and men, further reinforcing the gender binary. By saying for her, packages claim to express or explain the contents, but this is not so. By saying for her, the contents of a product become feminine and construct women as a consumer group that like and are best represented by certain products and all that they stand for. The blue and pink phenomenon continues with diaper packaging and kids' clothing, where there are two distinct sections for boy clothes and another for girl clothes, which are only different in their color scheme and the phrases they feature. One girl's shirt says, "Little cutie," another, "One in a melon" with a heart, which typically symbolizes love and relationships. The girl's clothing sends a message about the wearer in relation to others, either appearing pleasing to others or being one in a melon. The boys' clothing says things like "Mommy's Little Explorer," which sends a message of adventure and again, heroism. Even the onesie that says, "I'm cute and I'm not lying," does focus on the boy's appearance, but it also hints at the wearer's agency. The phrase is written in first person, as if the boy himself is saying it. These observations are similar to McIntyre's, who's found that packaging of men's products may send a message that the product will help men maintain control in social situations, while women's products claim to help produce an attractive, pleasing femininity in the buyer. We've seen a lot of products that reinforce the gender binary, but what about gender-neutral products? As many scholars have argued, there is no such thing as gender-neutral design. On the contrary, gender neutrality is dependent upon gender conventions and often involves the subordination of the supposedly feminine. When we look at cereal, most of the cereal logos don't seem overtly masculine or feminine. Except for masculine Tony the Tiger with his large, imposing figure. There's Toucan Sam, the Lucky Charms leprechaun, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, the Trix Bunny. While none of them are particularly masculine, they are depicted as male. Women characters are underrepresented here because male, the dominant category in the gender binary, is considered neutral, which subordinates the feminine. Even with this yogurt, there is Frozen, Spider-Man, and Paw Patrol. Maybe the Paw Patrol is supposedly gender neutral, but there's only one female pup in the back, wearing pink. Again, male in the gender binary is the dominant category and is presented as neutral. Pillsbury Doughboy, on the other hand, even though he's a boy, is depicted with some qualities that typically are understood as feminine. He's surrounded by sparkles, he seems to be defined by his relationship to others, in the form of his infatuation with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch character. He's not looking at us, so he is the subject of our gaze, rather than maintaining his power by returning his gaze towards the viewer. He also is the mascot for a company that centers on baking cookies and pastries, a stereotypically feminine activity. He has a soft body and doesn't have the traditionally seen as desirable, athletic, broad-shouldered masculine build, like Tony the Tiger. Pillsbury Doughboy replaces the stereotype of traditional masculinity, but as Stuart Hall warns, attempting to replace one stereotype with a different one could still retain harmful elements. But at the very least, this anthropomorphic dough is representing a male character who doesn't replicate masculine norms. Another poignant binary that Superstore constructs is international food versus Canadian food, courtesy of what is called the World Food Aisle. This aisle contains international canned goods, sauces, beverages, noodles, and rice. But there are many foods in the store from outside of Canada that are not in this aisle. Take most of the produce section, for example. So why are certain foods from outside Canada deemed world foods and others aren't? Calling some foods world foods may be arbitrarily othering certain products, like these spices, which also happen to exist in a different aisle. These are two different types of curry spices, but there is no reason why they should be in different aisles of the store. The placement of these two spices in the store reveal that they are intended for different customers. Similarly to how we saw the gender binary being reinforced by packaged advertising, the same thing is happening here, where there's a creation of a binary between customers that want international foods and customers that want Canadian foods, which aren't really Canadian because, as we already covered, a lot of them are from outside of Canada. So not Canadian exactly, but foods that are part of the assumed norm in Canadian culture, which is white culture. This binary of world foods and Canadian foods subordinates the world food, in that it deviates from the norm. The store could instead distribute all those foods into aisles so that they are closer in proximity to the foods that they are similar to, without othering and exotifying them, which is what's currently happening. So what did I learn during my queering expedition in Superstore? Despite there being a progress pride flag outside, the store reinforces hegemonic norms, particularly the gender binary. Women are underrepresented in most areas, in that even when products are represented as gender neutral, the package design usually subordinated the female. The store also constructed other binaries, like the aisle for world food for international foods, despite many of the other foods coming from outside of Canada. The space could be queered in a few ways. McIntyre finds that recognizing the arbitrariness of changeability in the gendering of design language has worked as resistance to gender ideologies. Imagine if the word extreme were not put in front of the word sensitive on that razor. Not only would it become more acceptable for anyone of any gender to use a product for sensitive skin, the word sensitive itself would lose its connection to the feminine. By showing that the links between, for instance, femininity and the color pink have no basis in nature, but are the result of complex representational systems and signifying practices, it is possible to expose the flawed notion that cultural valuations of femininity have any basis in nature. Defying traditional uses of color can disrupt the gender binary and the connection between pink and femininity. Clothing for babies doesn't need to be divided by gender at all. And with more genders represented on packaging like cereal boxes and on other products, we can build new meanings that exist in our culture that don't reinforce unnecessary binaries.